Zara took a deep breath as she stood in front of Westlake High School. The morning sun reflected off the wide glass doors, making her squint. This was her third school in 2 years, and she was tired of being the new girl. Clutching her backpack, straps tightly, she watched other students brush past her, laughing and talking with the easy comfort of people who belonged. Just be yourself, her dad had told her that morning as he dropped her off. Easy for him to say. When your dad is Vin, Diesel being yourself gets complicated. That's why they had agreed she would use her birth name Williams instead of his last name. That's why he had parked 2 blocks away and let her walk the rest to school alone. They both wanted her to have a normal high school experience, whatever. Normal meant Zara finally pushed through the doors and entered the bustling hallway. The school smelled like floor cleaner and perfume with underlying notes of gym socks. A typical high school, in other words. She pulled out her schedule and squinted at the room numbers. Room 203, English with Mrs. Chen. Now she just had to figure out where that was. You look lost. The voice came from behind her. Zara turned to see a girl with curly hair and glasses, carrying a stack of books that looked heavy enough to cause back problems. That obvious, huh? Zara smiled, relieved someone had approached her. First day here is like being dropped in a maze. I'm Becky. The girl shifted her books to one arm and held out her hand. Want me to show you to your first class? 20 minutes later, Zara sat in English class, feeling slightly less adrift. Becky had given her a quick tour on the way, pointing out the cafeteria, gym, and which bathrooms to avoid because the lighting makes everyone look like zombies. Small details, but they made Zara feel less like an outsider. Mrs. Chen was discussing their current novel when the classroom door swung open. A girl walked in 15 minutes late, not bothering to look apologetic. Nice of you to join us, Amber, Mrs. Chen said, her tone making it clear this wasn't unusual. Doctor's appointment, Amber replied, handing over a note before scanning the room for a seat. Her gaze fell on Zara, taking in her face, her clothes, her hair. It wasn't a friendly assessment. Zara had seen that look before. Someone deciding who you were before you'd said a word. Amber slid into a desk 2 rows over, still watching Zara with narrowed eyes. By lunch, Zara had survived 4 classes and remembered about half the names of people who'd introduced themselves. Becky waved her over to a table where 3 other students sat. Guys, this is Zara. She's new. Zara, this is Dina, Tyler, and Luis. Zara sat down, grateful to have somewhere to eat besides a bathroom stall, which had been her fate at her last school for the first week. Where'd you move from? Luis asked, offering her a bag of chips. L.A., Zara said, taking a few. My dad's job brought us here. What does he do? Dina asked. Zara had practiced this answer. He works in the entertainment industry. Not a lie, just not the whole complicated truth. She quickly changed the subject. What's good in the cafeteria here? Nothing, all 4 said in unison, then laughed. The conversation flowed easily after that. Nobody pushed for more details about her family, which was a relief. But halfway through lunch, Zara felt someone watching her. She glanced up to see Amber sitting at a table surrounded by friends all wearing similar expensive-looking clothes. Amber whispered something, and several heads turned to look at Zara. Don't worry about Amber, Becky said quietly, noticing the exchange. She does that to everyone new, likes to figure out where you fit in her world order. And where do you guys fit? Zara asked. Tyler grinned. Nowhere, which is exactly how we like it. After lunch came Zara's favorite subject, auto shop. Her dad had taught her about cars since she was little, working together in their garage on weekends. It was their thing, the place where conversation flowed easily between them as they worked on engines side by side. She hesitated at the door of the shop class. It was full of guys, with just 2 other girls. The teacher, Mr. Reyes, noticed her, standing there. You must be Zara. Come on in, we're just getting started on small engine repair. She felt everyone watching as she walked to an empty workbench. Mr. Reyes continued. Today we're diagnosing common problems in 4-stroke engines. Partner up and I'll assign each team an engine to troubleshoot. A tall boy with dark hair approached her bench. Want to work together? I'm Josh. Sure, Zara said, relieved. Mr. Reyes brought over a small engine. This one's running rough. Figure out why. Josh reached for the tools first. I'll check the spark plug. You can look at the fuel line, Zara finished, already examining the connection. There's your problem. It's cracked. The engine's getting air mixed with the fuel. Josh stared at her. How'd you know that so fast? Zara shrugged. My dad and I rebuild engines sometimes. You pick things up. By the end of class, word had spread that the new girl knew her way around an engine. Mr. Reyes asked her to stay behind for a moment after the bell. That was impressive work today. We've got an old Mustang we're rebuilding as a class project. Could use someone with your skills. I'd like that, Zara said, feeling her first real spark of belonging. As she left the shop classroom, she nearly ran into Amber, who was walking with two friends. Sorry, Zara said automatically, stepping aside. Amber looked her up and down, taking in the grease smudge on Zara's hand. Playing with car parts? Cute hobby. One of Amber's friends snickered. Guess some people need to learn trade skills early. Zara felt her face grow hot, but she kept her expression neutral. Her dad's voice echoed in her head. Never let them see they got to you. She walked past without responding. The rest of the day passed without incident. As the final bell rang, Zara headed to her locker, mentally sorting through which books she needed to take home. She was reaching for her math textbook when she heard voices around the corner. The new girl, what's her deal? That was Amber's voice. Zara? Seems nice enough. She's in my English class, a boy replied. There's something off about her. Did you see her in shop class? Acting like she knows everything about cars. Amber's voice dripped with disdain. And what's with her clothes? Those boots cost more than my phone, doesn't match the rest of her discount store look. Zara froze. Her boots had been a gift from her dad, picked up while filming overseas. The rest of her clothes were deliberately average, part of trying to blend in. Maybe her parents just spent all their money on the boots, when another voice joked. Parents? I heard she lives with just her dad, no mom in the picture, probably why she's so weird. Amber's voice faded as the group moved away down the hall. Zara closed her locker quietly. So it was starting already. The whispers, the judgments, the picking apart of her life based on scraps of information. She'd hoped this school might be different. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was her dad. How was day one, still picking you up at the corner of Maple? She typed back, fine, normal first day stuff. See you at 3:30. She hesitated, then added, can we work on the charger tonight? The response came immediately. You bet. Ordered those parts we talked about, ready when you are. Zara smiled. At least she had that to look forward to. The garage at home, the comfortable rhythm of tools and engine parts, and her dad's steady presence beside her. No whispers, no judgments, just the two of them doing what they loved. She walked out of the school, shoulders back, eyes forward. It was just the first day. Things would get better, or they wouldn't, and she'd handle that too. After everything she'd been through, losing her parents, then being adopted by one of Hollywood's biggest action stars, high school drama seemed manageable. She just needed to keep her head down, find her people, and not let anyone know who her dad really was. Tomorrow would be better. And if it wasn't, there was always the garage waiting for her at home, where she knew exactly who she was and where she belonged. 3 weeks had passed since Zara's first day at Westlake High, and she was settling into a routine. She'd found her way around the maze-like hallways, memorized her locker combination, and even made a small group of friends. But as she walked to her English class that morning, she felt a familiar tension in her shoulders. Amber Reeves had made it her mission to make Zara uncomfortable, and lately things were getting worse. It had started with looks and whispers. Then came the accidental bumps in the hallway. Yesterday, Amber had knocked Zara's lunch tray, sending her food scattering across the cafeteria floor. Oops, didn't see you there, she'd said with a smirk that made it clear it was no accident. Zara slid into her seat just as the bell rang. Mrs. Chen was handing back their essays on The Great Gatsby. Excellent analysis, Zara, Mrs. Chen said, placing Zara's paper on her desk. A red A stood out at the top of the page. Your comparison between wealth in the 1920s and today was particularly insightful. From 2 rows over, Amber's eyes narrowed. Zara quickly tucked the paper into her folder. The last thing she needed was another reason for Amber to target her. After class, Becky caught up with her in the hallway. "Hey, want to join our study group for the biology test? We're meeting at the library after school." "Can't today," Zara said. "I promised my dad I'd help him with something." What she didn't say was that they were spending the afternoon working on their latest car restoration project, a 1970 Dodge Charger they'd found at a junkyard. Her dad had meetings with his agent in the morning but had cleared his schedule for their garage time. "Your dad must be pretty cool to hang out with," Becky said. "Mine just talks about mortgage rates and complains about his back pain." Zara smiled. If only Becky knew who her dad was. The same action star whose poster hung in Tyler's locker. He has his moments. As they rounded the corner to the math wing, Amber stood with her usual group, blocking most of the hallway. Zara tried to squeeze past without drawing attention, but Amber stuck out her foot. Zara stumbled, dropping her books. "Watch where you're going," Amber said loudly. Her friends laughed on cue. Zara took a deep breath and knelt to gather her scattered notebooks. Becky helped her, whispering, "Just ignore her." But as Zara reached for her English folder, Amber's designer shoe came down on it. "Is this yours?" "Sorry." She slid it away with her foot, sending it skidding down the hall. Zara stood, up slowly, looking Amber directly in the eyes. "What exactly is your problem with me?" The hallway quieted. Students paused to watch, sensing drama. Amber stepped closer. "My problem? I don't have a problem. I just think it's interesting how someone who shops at discount stores suddenly shows up with expensive boots and gets perfect grades in advanced classes." She looked Zara up and down. "It's almost like you're pretending to be something you're not." The irony of the accusation, when Zara was actually downplaying who she was, wasn't lost on her. But she couldn't exactly say, "Actually, I'm Vin, Diesel's daughter," without creating exactly the kind of attention she was trying to avoid. "You don't know anything about me," Zara said quietly. "I know your type," Amber replied. "New girl comes in, tries to stand out, thinks she's special." She stepped even closer. "Newsflash, you're not." Mr. Reyes, the auto shop teacher, appeared in the hallway. "Everything okay here?" The crowd of students immediately dispersed. Amber's smile switched on like a light. "Just welcoming our new classmate." "Mr. Reyes." He looked skeptical but nodded. "Bell rings in 2 minutes. Get to class, everyone." As Amber walked away, she bumped Zara's shoulder hard. "This isn't over," she whispered. In auto shop class, Zara found refuge under the hood of a car. Here she knew what she was doing. Here she felt confident. Mr. Reyes had paired her with Josh for the semester project, rebuilding the engine of an old Mustang. They worked well together, with Josh respecting her knowledge instead of questioning it. "Hand me that socket wrench," Zara asked, her head still under the hood. "Here," Josh said, placing it in her outstretched hand. "So, that thing with Amber in the hallway?" Zara tightened a bolt with more force than necessary. "Not much to talk about. She's been like that since freshman year. Her dad owns half the car dealerships in town. She thinks that makes her royalty or something." "I've dealt with worse," Zara said, though she wasn't sure that was true. Her previous schools had their share of mean girls, but none had targeted her with such focus. "The Mustang Club is meeting this weekend," Josh said, changing the subject. "We're going to check out this classic car show downtown. You should come." Zara hesitated. She'd been keeping to herself outside of school, partly to avoid questions about her home life. But maybe it was time to branch out a little. "That sounds cool. I'll ask my dad." After school, Zara headed to the agreed-upon corner where her dad would pick her up. She spotted his car, not one of his flashy Hollywood vehicles, but the modest sedan they used for school drop-offs, and climbed in. "How was day 21? He asked, pulling away from the curb. "Fine," she said automatically, then changed her mind. Actually, not so great. Her dad glanced at her, concern crossing his face. At home, in private, he wasn't Vin Diesel the movie star. He was just her dad, the man who had taken her in after the accident that killed her parents, who had patiently helped her through nightmares and grief, who had given her a new family when she'd lost everything. "Want to talk about it?" he asked. Zara stared out the window. "There's this girl at school, Amber. She's been difficult." "Difficult how?" "Just the usual high school stuff. Snide comments, bumping into me in the halls." Zara shrugged. "Nothing I can't handle." Her dad was quiet for a moment. "You know, when I was filming in Budapest, there was this stunt coordinator who took an instant dislike to me. Made my life hell for weeks." "What did you do?" "First I tried ignoring him. Then I tried being extra nice. Neither worked." He stopped at a red light and turned to look at her. "What finally worked was standing my ground. Not fighting back exactly, but not backing down either. I let him know I noticed what he was doing and I wasn't intimidated." "Did he stop?" "Eventually. Turned out he was testing me, seeing if I was as tough as the characters I play. The light turned green and he drove on. Sometimes people bully because they're insecure. They want to see what you're made of." Zara considered this. "I don't think that's why Amber's doing it. I think she just doesn't like that people pay attention to me instead of her." "That's still insecurity." He pulled into their driveway, hitting the button for the garage door. "Just remember who you are, Zara. You've been through tougher things than a high school bully." In the garage, they changed into their work clothes. Old t-shirts and jeans they didn't mind getting dirty. The Charger sat waiting for them, its engine partially disassembled. As they worked side by side, the tension of the day slowly left Zara's shoulders. There was something meditative about working on cars. The logical sequence of taking things apart and putting them back together. The satisfaction of fixing what was broken. "Josh from Auto Shop invited me to a car show this weekend," she said, wiping grease from a spark plug. "With the Mustang Club." Her dad handed her a wrench. "Sounds fun. Just remember, low profile, I know." She'd heard the speech before. No selfies, no mentioning who her dad was, nothing that might attract attention or end up online. "I was going to say have fun," he corrected her with a smile. "But yes, low profile too." They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then her dad said, "You know, if this Amber situation gets worse, we might need to talk to the school." "No," Zara said quickly. "That would just make everything more complicated. I can handle it." But later that night, as she was getting ready for bed, her phone buzzed with a message from Becky. "Have you seen Amber's Instagram?" Zara opened the app and found Amber's profile. The most recent post was a photo taken in the cafeteria, Zara sitting alone at a table, caught mid-bite with an unflattering expression. The caption read, "Scholarship case or charity project? Either way doesn't belong at Westlake. Fake it till you make it." Comments were already piling up, some laughing along, others defending Zara, all of it creating exactly the kind of attention she'd been trying to avoid. Zara's hand shook as she closed the app. This wasn't just hallway whispers anymore, this was public humiliation. As much as she wanted to handle things on her own, she had a feeling that tomorrow was going to be much worse than today. She almost went to tell her dad, but stopped at his office door. Through the crack, she could hear him on the phone discussing his upcoming filming schedule. He had enough to worry about without adding her high school drama to the list. "I can handle this," she whispered to herself, but as she crawled into bed, she wasn't nearly as convinced as she wanted to be. Zara knew something was different the moment she walked into school the next day. Conversations stopped when she passed. People looked at her, then quickly glanced away. A group of freshmen actually pointed at her before an older student hushed them. "Hey." Becky appeared beside her looking worried. "You okay?" "I guess everyone's seen the post?" Zara asked, though she already knew the answer. "It's gotten worse," Becky admitted. "Amber kept adding comments all night, making up stuff about you. Some people are believing it." Zara took a deep breath. "What kind of stuff?" that you lied about where you came from, that you're only in advanced classes because someone pulled strings. Becky hesitated. And some things about your family that I'm not going to repeat because they're obviously garbage. A cold feeling settled in Zara's stomach. She'd been careful not to share details about her life, but that just meant people like Amber could fill in the blanks with whatever they wanted. And the truth, that she was the adopted daughter of one of Hollywood's biggest action stars, was something she couldn't use to defend herself without creating a whole new set of problems. Just ignore it, Becky advised. People will forget about it when the next drama happens. But ignoring it proved impossible. In English class, Amber and her friends kept glancing at Zara and whispering. When Mrs. Chen asked Zara to read her essay excerpt aloud, someone in the back made a coughing sound that clearly disguised the word fake. By lunch, Zara couldn't take it anymore. She skipped the cafeteria and found an empty classroom to eat, and she was halfway through her sandwich when the door opened and Josh walked in. "Thought I might find you hiding out," he said, sitting at the desk next to hers. "Not hiding, just needed some quiet." Josh nodded. For what it's worth, a lot of people think Amber's post was way out of line. Tyler and Luis are in the cafeteria, right now calling her out on it. Zara groaned. "Great, more drama. You could just tell people the truth, you know, about who you really are." Zara froze, her sandwich halfway to her mouth. "What are you talking about?" "Come on, Zara. I've seen you working on cars. You didn't learn that from watching YouTube tutorials. Someone taught you. Someone who really knows engines." He smiled. "I'm guessing your dad's a mechanic or an engineer, right? Not the stuck-up rich guy Amber's making him out to be." Relief washed over her. Josh hadn't figured out who her dad actually was. He'd just realized she wasn't the fake Amber was painting her to be. "Something like that," she said vaguely. "You should sign up for the talent show next week," Josh suggested. "Show people who you really are on your terms." The annual Westlake High Talent Show. Zara had seen the posters but hadn't given it any thought. "What would I even do?" "I don't know. What are you good at besides fixing cars?" Zara thought about it. Before, her parents died before her whole life changed. She'd taken dance classes for years. She hadn't danced much since the accident, but sometimes when she was alone in her room, she'd put on music and lose herself in movement. It was one of the few things that helped when memories got too heavy. "I used to dance," she admitted. "Hip-hop, mostly, but some contemporary too." "Perfect," Josh said. "Sign-up sheets in the main office. Show ends with last year's winner announcing this year's champion. It's a big deal around here." "I don't know." "Just think about it," Josh said, as the bell rang. "Might be better than letting Amber's version of you be the only one people see." In Autoshop that afternoon, Mr. Reyes announced a change to their schedule. "The school board's coming through next week to see our progress on the Mustang project. I need my best students to demonstrate what we've accomplished." He looked directly at Zara. "Williams, you'll lead the engine restoration presentation." Zara felt a flutter of pride, quickly followed by anxiety. Standing in front of the school board meant visibility, the exact opposite of keeping a low profile, but she also couldn't pass up the chance to show what she could do. After school, she found the talent show sign-up sheet and added her name before she could change her mind. Then she called her dad to tell him she'd be staying late at school all week to practice. "Dance?" "Huh?" he said, sounding surprised but pleased. "It's been a while since you've done that." "I'm probably really rusty," she admitted. "You got this," he said with the same confidence he had when encouraging her to tackle a complicated engine repair. "Want me to help you practice at home, Lenrie?" Mental image of her action star father attempting to help with hip-hop choreography made her laugh. "I think I'm good, but thanks." "Everything else okay at school?" he asked, his tone shifting to concern. Zara almost told him about Amber's escalating bullying, about the Instagram post and the whispers. But her dad was leaving for a weekend charity event, and she didn't want him distracted with worry. "Everything's fine. Just the usual stuff." That night, Zara created a playlist and worked on choreography in her bedroom, moving furniture to clear a practice space. Dancing again felt both familiar and strange, like putting on an old favorite jacket and finding it fit differently than remembered. But by the time she fell into bed, exhausted, she'd mapped out most of her routine. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Classes, where she did her best to ignore Amber's continued taunts. Auto shop, where she prepared for the school board presentation, and after-school rehearsals in the empty gymnasium. By Thursday, she was feeling cautiously optimistic about both the talent show and the Mustang presentation. Then everything fell apart. Zara was in the gym running through her routine one last time when she heard the door open. She turned, expecting the janitor, but instead saw Amber standing there with two of her friends. "Well, look who thinks she's a dancer now," Amber said, walking closer. "First cars, then perfect essays. Now this? Is there anything you're not magically good at?" Zara stopped her music. "I'm just practicing for the talent show." "We noticed," one of Amber's friends said. "We've been watching through the window for like 10 minutes. "It's actually not bad," the other friend admitted, earning a sharp look from Amber. "What do you want, Amber?" Zara asked tiredly. "Just checking out the competition." Amber smirked. "I'm in the talent show too. Dance team captain, remember? We're doing a number that's going to blow everyone away." She walked in a slow circle around Zara. "But I have to say, I'm surprised. I didn't think scholarship cases had time for dance lessons. What with all the studying and, I don't know, working after-school jobs to help their single dads make rent." Zara clenched her fists, fighting to keep her face neutral. "You don't know anything about my dad or our life. I know he drives a beat-up Honda and drops you off 2 blocks from school. I know you try to hide where you live. I know you're playing some kind of game, pretending to be something you're not." Amber stepped closer. "And I hate fakes." The irony almost made Zara laugh. She was being bullied for pretending to be ordinary when her reality was anything but. "I'm not pretending anything." "We'll see about that," Amber said. "See you at the talent show, scholarship girl. Hope you don't choke under pressure." With that, she and her friends left, their laughter echoing in the empty gym. Zara tried to continue practicing, but her concentration was broken. She gathered her things and headed to the parking lot where her dad was waiting in his other car, a black SUV with tinted windows that he used when the risk of being recognized was lower. "How was practice?" he asked as she climbed in. "Fine." She stared out the window, not wanting him to see the worry on her face. That didn't sound convincing. Zara sighed. "It's just, the talent show is a bigger deal than I thought. The whole school will be there. What if I mess up?" "Then you mess up," her dad said simply. "It's not a movie. You don't need multiple takes to get it perfect. You just need to be you up there." He glanced at her. "There's something else bothering you, isn't there?" Zara hesitated. Amber signed up for the talent show too. Her and her whole dance team. "Ah," he nodded. "Competition." "It's not that." Zara picked at a loose thread on her backpack. "She keeps trying to expose me as some kind of fake. She's convinced I'm hiding something." Her dad was quiet for a moment. "Well, you are hiding something. Just not what she thinks. I know, that's what makes it so frustrating. I can't defend myself without, without revealing that your dad is an international action star who can bench press more than most gym equipment." He grinned. "Despite everything," Zara laughed. "Something like that." They pulled into their driveway, the security gate closing behind them. Their house wasn't a massive Hollywood mansion. Her dad had chosen something more modest when he adopted her, wanting her to have a somewhat normal childhood. But it was still nicer than most homes in the area. "I'll be back from the charity event Sunday night," he reminded her. "You sure you'll be okay alone? My assistant can stay over if you want." "Dad, I'm 16, not 6. I'll be fine." The house had a good security system, and she'd stayed by herself plenty of times before. "Call me after the talent show. I want to hear all about how you knocked their socks off." Zara tried to smile, but a knot of anxiety was forming in her stomach. Somehow she had a feeling that the talent show wasn't going to go the way either of them hoped. The day of the talent show arrived with the buzz of excitement that only special school events can create. Classes were shortened, teachers were more lenient, and an electric energy filled the hallways. For most students, it was a welcome break from routine. For Zara, it felt like walking toward a storm. She'd spent the weekend alone, practicing her routine until her muscles ached. Her dad had called twice from his charity event, once to wish her luck and once just to check in. Both times, she'd assured him everything was fine. Both times, she'd lied. Amber had spent the weekend too, but not practicing. She'd been busy posting more comments online, each one designed to chip away at Zara's confidence. By Sunday night, the rumors had grown so wild that some students were saying Zara had faked her transcript to get into Westlake, that she was actually flunking all her classes, that the only reason she knew about cars was because she'd dated a mechanic at her old school who'd done all the work for her. Just ignore it, Becky advised as they walked to their first class Monday morning. People who matter know the truth. That's just it, Zara said. Nobody knows the truth. Not even you. Becky looked hurt. What's that supposed to mean? Zara sighed. Nothing. I'm just stressed about the show. You'll do great, Becky assured her. And half the school is sick of Amber's Queen Bee act anyway. They're rooting for you. The school board presentation in auto shop came first. Zara stood in front of a group of adults in business suits, explaining the engine restoration process while Mr. Reyes looked on with approval. She found her confidence growing as she spoke about something she genuinely understood. When she finished, the board members asked questions that she answered easily, drawing on years of working alongside her dad in their garage. Impressive work, Ms. Williams, one woman said. You have a bright future in engineering if you want it. As the board members moved on to inspect other projects, Mr. Reyes pulled Zara aside. That was excellent. One of the best presentations I've seen from a student. Thanks, Zara said, feeling a small burst of pride break through her anxiety about the talent show. Just out of curiosity, where did you learn so much about engines? Most students come in with basic knowledge at best, but you clearly have years of experience. Zara hesitated. My dad taught me. We've been working on cars together since I was little. Mr. Reyes nodded. He must be quite the mechanic. He's good with his hands, Zara said carefully. It wasn't a lie. Her dad did most of his own stunts in his action movies, and the physical training showed in everything he did, including their garage projects. Well, tell him he's raised a talented young engineer. Mr. Reyes smiled. And good luck at the talent show. I heard you're performing. News traveled fast in a high school. Zara wasn't surprised that her teachers knew about the talent show, but she was surprised by how many students stopped her in the hallway to wish her luck. Most of them she barely knew. Word had spread about her conflict with Amber, and apparently, people were taking sides. Team Zara, a sophomore said, giving her a thumbs up as she passed. By lunch, the whole thing had taken on the feeling of a showdown. Zara sat with Becky and their friends, picking at her food and trying to ignore the looks from Amber's table. She's just worried you'll steal her spotlight, Tyler said, nodding toward Amber. She's won the talent show 2 years running. I'm not trying to win, Zara insisted. I just want to. She trailed off, not sure how to explain that she wanted to reclaim her identity on her own terms. Show everyone who you really are, Josh finished for her. We get it. But they didn't get it. Not really. They thought this was just about standing up to a bully about proving Amber wrong. They didn't understand that Zara was walking a tightrope, trying to defend herself without revealing too much. One wrong move, one slip of information, and her quiet high school life would be replaced by the chaos she'd been trying to avoid. The chaos that came with being Vin Diesel's daughter. The afternoon dragged on endlessly. By the time the final bell rang, Zara's nerves were stretched thin. She changed into her dance clothes and headed to the gym, which had been transformed into a performance space with a stage at one end and rows of chairs for the audience. Backstage was crowded with performers doing last-minute preparations. A band was tuning their instruments. 2 freshmen were practicing a comedy routine in the corner. Amber and her dance team were huddled together, already in matching outfits, whispering and occasionally glancing Zara's way. The talent show coordinator, a frazzled-looking drama teacher, gathered everyone around. You'll each have 5 minutes. When you hear your name, that's your cue. Any questions? When no one spoke up, she nodded. Good luck, everyone. The gym filled quickly with students, teachers, and some parents. Zara peeked out from behind the curtain, scanning the crowd. She hadn't expected her dad to be there. He wasn't due back from his charity event until later. But part of her had hoped he might surprise her. The rational part of her was glad he wasn't. Having Vin Diesel show up would definitely blow her cover. The show began with a sophomore playing violin, followed by the comedy duo, a magic act, and a surprisingly good rendition of a pop song. Then came Amber's group. Zara watched from the side as they took the stage, moving with the precision that came from years of training together. Their routine was flashy and technical, full of difficult moves perfectly executed. The audience cheered enthusiastically when they finished. 2 more acts followed, but Zara barely registered them. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Then she heard her name. Next up, Zara Williams. She walked onto the stage, trying to ignore the whispers that rippled through the crowd. The lights were bright enough that she could only see the first few rows, which was probably a good thing. She nodded to the sound booth and her music began to play. For the first few seconds, she was stiff, too aware of everyone watching. Then muscle memory took over, and she found the rhythm. This was her dance, her story. The moves came from hours of practice, yes, but also from something deeper. From the grief she'd carried after losing her parents, from the gratitude she felt toward the man who had taken her in, from the frustration of hiding who she really was. She lost herself in the performance, barely noticing when the audience began to clap along. By the time the music ended, she was breathing hard but smiling. The applause was immediate and loud, with some students even standing. As she left the stage, she caught sight of Amber's face, a mixture of surprise and something that might have been respect, quickly masked by a scowl. Zara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Whatever happened next, she had shown them who she was, or at least a part of who she was. The last few acts passed in a blur. Then it was time for the winner to be announced. Last year's champion, a senior who had won with a piano piece, took the stage with an envelope. This year's talent show winner is... He paused for dramatic effect. Zara Williams. The gym erupted in cheers. Zara stood frozen in shock until Becky pushed her toward the stage. As she accepted the small trophy, she caught sight of Amber's face again, no longer scowling but cold with fury. "Speech!" someone shouted, and others took up the call. Zara stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you, I wasn't expecting this." She looked out at the crowd, seeing friendly faces alongside curious ones. "I guess sometimes people surprise you. Sometimes they're more than what you think they are at first glance." It wasn't much of a speech, but it was honest and the audience seemed satisfied. As people began to leave, Zara was surrounded by well-wishers. She smiled and thanked them, still clutching her trophy, still riding the high of the performance. She was so distracted that she didn't notice Amber approaching until she was right beside her. "Congratulations," Amber said, her voice tight. "Nice moves. Where'd you learn to dance like that? Another one of your many hidden talents?" Before Zara could answer, there was a commotion at the gym entrance. People were turning, pointing, whispering excitedly. A path cleared through the crowd, and Zara's heart sank as she realized who had just arrived. Her dad. In his rush to make it back for her performance, he hadn't bothered with his usual low-profile look. There was no mistaking Vin Diesel as he scanned the gym, looking for his daughter. Their eyes met across the crowd. He smiled apologetically, realizing his mistake too late. The whispers around Zara grew louder as people made the connection. "Is that... No way! What's Vin Diesel doing here?" Amber looked from Zara to the action star and back again, her expression changing from confusion to disbelief. He's your dad?" The secret was out. Zara clutched her trophy tighter, waiting for the explosion that was sure to follow. But before anyone could react further, the principal appeared beside her dad, shaking his hand enthusiastically and leading him toward an office. Her dad glanced back at Zara with a look that clearly said, We'll figure this out. In the momentary confusion, Becky grabbed Zara's arm. We need to go. Now. She pulled Zara toward a side exit as the crowd's attention remained fixed on the spot where Vin Diesel had been standing. Outside in the cool evening air, Zara finally took a deep breath. Well, that's it. By tomorrow, the whole school will know. Know what? Becky asked. That your dad is Vin Diesel? That you've been hiding it this whole time? That Amber's been bullying the wrong girl? She shook her head in amazement. Zara, this is huge. I know, Zara said quietly. That's what I've been afraid of. The next morning, Zara sat in her dad's car outside the school, unable to make herself open the door. We could just go home, her dad suggested. Take a day. Let things cool down. She shook her head. That would just make it worse, like I'm hiding. You don't have to face this alone. I can come in with you, talk to your classmates, explain why we kept things quiet. Dad, no offense, but you walking into school with me would be like pouring gasoline on a fire. She gave him a small smile. I need to handle this myself. He nodded, understanding. They'd stayed up late the night before, talking through what had happened. The principal had been understanding about her dad's unexpected appearance, but by now, the news would have spread throughout the school and beyond. Zara's carefully constructed normal life had evaporated in an instant. Call me if you need anything, her dad said as she finally reached for the door handle. And Zara, I'm proud of you, for the talent show and for how you're handling this. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. As she walked toward the entrance, she felt like she was moving in slow motion. Students turned to stare. Some whispered behind their hands. Others pulled out phones, undoubtedly recording the moment to share later. Just inside the doors, Becky was waiting. I figured you might want backup, she said, falling into step beside Zara. Thanks. Zara was grateful for the support, but also confused. You're not mad I didn't tell you? Oh, I'm definitely going to make you pay for that later, Becky said with a grin. But right now I'm enjoying being best friends with the girl everyone suddenly wants to know. They made their way to Zara's locker, where Tyler, Luis, and Josh were waiting. Their reactions were a mix of awe and betrayal. Dude, your dad is Vin Diesel, Tyler said, stating the obvious. That's insane. Why didn't you tell us? Luis asked. Would you have treated me the same if you knew? Zara countered. They exchanged glances and she had her answer. Even now they were looking at her differently, not just as Zara but as Vin Diesel's daughter. For what it's worth, Josh said, it explains why you're so good with cars. Did he really teach you everything you know about engines? Zara nodded. We've been working on cars together since I was little. It's our thing. As they talked, more students gathered around, listening. The questions came rapidly after that. Is it true he adopted you? Do you live in a mansion? Have you met other famous people? Can you get us onto a movie set? Zara answered some questions and deflected others, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the attention. By the time the first bell rang, she was exhausted, and the day had barely begun. English class was the true test. Amber was already seated when Zara walked in, surrounded by her usual group. The room fell silent as Zara took her seat. She could feel Amber's eyes on her but refused to look back. Mrs. Chen started the class as if nothing unusual had happened. But the tension in the room was palpable. When she paired students for a discussion activity, Zara found herself face to face with Amber. For a long moment, neither spoke. So, Amber finally said, her voice low. Vin Diesel's daughter. That's why you've been so secretive. Zara met her, gazed steadily. I wanted people to know me for me, not for who my dad is. And now everyone knows anyway. Amber's expression was hard to read, not quite hostile, but not friendly either. Why didn't you just use it from the beginning? You could have been the most popular girl in school. That's not what I wanted. What did you want? Zara considered the question. Just to be normal, I guess, to make friends who liked me for me, not because of my dad. To deal with normal teenage stuff instead of paparazzi and fans. Something shifted in Amber's expression. a flicker of understanding quickly masked. Must be nice to have problems like that. Every problem feels big when it's yours, Zara said, even having a famous dad. Mrs. Chen moved past their desks, and they fell silent, pretending to discuss the assignment. When she passed, Amber leaned forward again. For what it's worth, your dance was good. Really good. You would have won even if your dad wasn't Vin Diesel. Coming from Amber, it was as close to an apology as Zara was likely to get. Thanks. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of stares and whispers. By lunch, Zara couldn't take it anymore. She slipped out to the auto shop, hoping to find some peace among the engines and tools. Mr. Reyes was there working on the Mustang. "Ah, Ms. Williams," he said, looking up from the engine. "Or should I say Ms. Diesel?" "Williams is fine," she said quickly. "It's still my legal name." He nodded. "I figured there was something special about you and cars. Just didn't expect the connection to be quite so Hollywood. Is it okay if I hang out here for lunch? I need a break from everyone." "Of course." He wiped his hands on a rag. "For what it's worth, your presentation to the school board impressed them regardless of who your father is. That scholarship recommendation is going in based on merit." Zara had forgotten about the scholarship, a special fund for students pursuing engineering. It had been one of the reasons she'd agreed to do the presentation. "Thank you. You earned it." Mr. Reyes picked up his lunchbox. "I'll give you some space. Lock up when you leave." Alone in the shop, Zara ran her hand along the Mustang's fender. Cars made sense to her in a way people often didn't. They were complex but logical. If something was wrong, you could diagnose it, fix it, make it right again. People were messier, especially now when everyone was seeing her through the lens of her famous father instead of as herself. The door opened and Zara turned, expecting Mr. Reyes. Instead, Amber stood there looking uncomfortable. "Your friend said you might be here," she explained. Zara tensed. "What do you want?" Amber stepped further into the shop, eyeing the tools and parts with mild curiosity. "I wanted to talk, away from everyone else." "About what?" "About how I've been treating you?" Amber seemed to be choosing her words carefully. "I've been pretty awful." Zara raised an eyebrow, waiting. "I thought you were faking something. Turns out I was right, just not in the way I expected." Amber attempted a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Look, I'm not good at apologies. I noticed. But I'm sorry. Not just because your dad is famous and could probably ruin my life with one Instagram post, but because—" She hesitated. "Because I misjudged you. And because maybe I was jealous." "Jealous? Of what?" "Of how easily you fit in. Of how good you are at things. The cars, the grades, the dancing." Amber shrugged. "I've worked really hard to be the best at everything here. Then you showed up and just were good at stuff without even trying." "I do try," Zara said. "I practice dancing for hours. I study hard. And I've been working on cars with my dad since I was old enough to hold a wrench." Amber nodded. "Yeah, I get that now." She looked around the shop again. "So this is where you hide out. It's different. It's where things make sense to me." A bell rang, signaling the end of lunch period. "I should go," Amber said. "But for what it's worth, I really am sorry. And I called my friends out for spreading those rumors about you. Told them to take down the posts." "Thanks," Zara said, surprised. As Amber reached the door, she paused. "By the way, there's an advanced dance workshop starting next month at the community center. The instructor worked with Beyoncé's team. You should come." It wasn't quite an invitation to be friends, but it was something. "Maybe I will." The rest of the day was a strange mix of the familiar and the new. Classes went on as usual, but the way people treated Zara had fundamentally changed. Some were obviously trying to become friends with her now. Others seemed intimidated. A few, like Becky and Josh, were making an effort to treat her the same as before, which she appreciated more than they knew. After school, Zara found her dad waiting in the parking lot, surrounded by a small crowd of students asking for autographs. He was handling it with good humor, but she could tell he was watching for her. Sorry about that, she said when she finally reached him. I told you not to come inside. Figured the damage was already done. He smiled as they got into the car. How bad was it? Weird, but not as terrible as I expected. She told him about her conversations with Amber, with her friends, with Mr. Reyes. It's like everyone's seeing me differently now, but maybe that's not entirely bad. People are going to see you through different lenses your whole life, her dad said as they drove. The trick is remembering who you really are, regardless of how others see you. And who am I? Zara asked, only half joking. You're Zara Williams. You're brilliant with engines, you dance like you were born to it, and you handle difficult situations with more grace than most adults I know. He glanced at her. You're also stubborn, independent to a fault, and terrible at asking for help when you need it. She laughed. Sounds about right. So what now? He asked. Do you want to switch schools? We could look at private options with better security, more privacy. Zara considered it. Part of her was tempted to start over somewhere else, maybe be more open about her family from the beginning. But another part had worked hard to build a life at Westlake. I think I want to stay, she decided. Things will be weird for a while, but eventually it'll become old news. And now I don't have to hide who I am anymore. Her dad nodded, looking pleased. In that case, what do you say we stop for ice cream on the way home? I think surviving your first high school scandal deserves a celebration. Only if you wear a hat and sunglasses, she teased. I've had enough excitement for one day. As they drove, Zara thought about how differently things had turned out than she'd expected. The secret she'd been so afraid of revealing had come out in the most public way possible. The bully she'd feared had offered something close to friendship. The normal life she'd tried to create had been turned upside down. And yet, she felt lighter, somehow. The weight of hiding, of carefully monitoring every word and action had been lifted. Whatever came next, whether it was paparazzi at school events or classmates asking for her dad's autograph or Amber actually becoming a friend, she would face it as her complete self. Zara Williams, Vin Diesel's adopted daughter, car enthusiast, dancer and survivor. For the first time since coming to Westlake, she felt like she truly belonged, not despite who she was, but because of it.